Climbing games are peak. No, not like that one, but we'll get to it. Even in a world full of Assassin's Creeds, Uncharted's, Tomb Raiders, even Dying Lights, I'm talking about true, fully fledged, dedicated climbing games. They contain adventure, discovery, problem-solving, cooperation, and sometimes primal terror. But beyond the journey, the question remains in each of these games. Why? What are you climbing to? What are you searching for? Is it an ancient artifact? Is it an escape from something? Is it just a nice view? But in some cases, the question is a lot closer to, what are you running from? White Knuckle finds you stranded at the bottom of a strange, facility. Parts of it feel like an oversized waste bin, some like the inner workings of some great mechanical beast, and all of the doors are completely bolted shut. Clanks and slams of something being either built or crushed call you to each wall, but no matter how hard you try, none of the doors will budge, which leaves you with just one way to go: up. Following closely behind you is a crawling ooze making its way through the facility. The aptly named Mass is slowly but surely rising, just as you are, and when I say surely, I do mean surely. Like most inevitable things in life, such as death, sickness, and heartbreak, the Mass will catch up with you many times. It won't wait for you to slow down or strike at a moment you're not paying attention. It will always just be right behind you. Substructure 17 is a place that is no longer fit for humanity, and maybe it never was. Even though they clearly had every intention of sticking around, they're not here anymore. Snapped ladders adorn the walls, the metal catwalks are falling apart, but it's clear that people were here at some point, maybe even just moments before you. Although the Mass is a pretty solid incentive to keep moving, as long as you modestly carry on, you should be fine. Eventually, various other creatures will show up, but most of them are just minding their own business. If they do turn their attention towards you, your hammer should be able to convince them otherwise fairly quick. Along with everyone else, maintenance is gone, so is whoever normally controls the facility, which leaves each and every piece of machinery to you. All of the elevators are down, obviously, so you have to precisely climb your way through the tunnels using vents, railings, pipes, or your own placed handholds. Throughout the facility, items are also fairly plentiful. Pitons can be placed to create handholds as long as you properly secure them to the wall. Various types of rebar can also be thrown, often serving as a lifeline for the more stressful moments of the game. If you're able to get past the air ducts harboring enormous fans and manage not to get caught in the airlocks between each room, you'll eventually find a way to seal off the Mass from above. You should have just enough time to catch your breath in the first interlude, maybe get some more useful items, a boost to your physical capabilities, but you have to carry on eventually, right? To absolutely nobody's surprise, the elevator goes out and you're forced into the facility's pipeworks. What you're met with are more bugs, more critters, creations, and a layout that never had climbing in mind. While the environment is undeniably more hostile, there is some solace in seeing something alive here, something that moves on its own accord. Opposed to the lifeless gray environments of the ventilation system, the pipeworks feel strangely comforting. Yet again, with nobody around to take care of the place, it's falling to pieces. Clogged pipes are bursting with pressure, and if you're unlucky enough to get caught in it, it'll likely cascade you into the Mass below, which has inexplicably made its way back to you. Even ascending to the top of the pipeworks isn't enough, it just makes it rise quicker. However, this is where you'll find the one working elevator in the entire facility, but it would be too easy if it went all the way up in one shot. The control room operators are, of course, missing, so you'll have to manually disengage the locks yourself. Normally this might not be an issue, but with the entire facility in utter shambles, you'll have to carve your own path. Getting there seemed hard, but keeping your cool while making your way back to the lift is even worse. If the Mass hasn't caught up with you yet, you can ride the elevator up a bit further, but it'll stop again until you make your way to the controls for the airlock seal. In spite of that last challenge, the climb to the controls is even more treacherous. Jumps are further apart, and if that wasn't bad enough already, the wall seems to jut out to almost intentionally stop you from going further, but where there's a will, there is a way. After moving the airlock and making it back, you should have just enough time to hit the elevator and move into Habitation Yellow. But if you thought the biggest obstacle was behind you, you're in for a very rude awakening. But like no other, Jusant proudly carries its cinematic mystery throughout its runtime and beyond. From the very first frame through the entire credit sequence, there's so much wonder within its world. In a place seemingly frozen in time, it feels like the land of Jusant is just there, waiting for you or somebody else to come and solve its mystery. With the mountain's abandoned carcass clearly being someone's home at one point or another, there are few indications that anything at all remains, at least anything human. Our story begins low in a dry, never-ending pillar stretching through the clouds. The early climb presents little challenge for you, or the character at least, who is clearly familiar with the sport. Occasional mounts will keep you from falling, with additional pitons available to anchor yourself if you need to. However, no matter how badly you want to, no matter how hard you try, Jusant will absolutely not let you launch yourself off the mountain, and trust me, I did try. Although we are living in a time of Assassin's Creed, Only Up, Getting Over It, or even White Knuckle, it is nice to find something that takes the climb so seriously while also letting you enjoy it. Something I love about this wave of games is their somewhat realistic approach to climbing with well thought out stamina systems and mechanics that don't sacrifice whatever makes their world unique. And Jusant, obviously, is no different. It's not a very difficult game, and it's not a very long one either. Don't Nod, Jusant's developer, has absolutely no interest in punishing you for making mistakes or even for taking your time. They just want you to enjoy the ride. While the lack of punishment and notably harsh attitude may detract from the realism of a proper, realistic climb, it's a big reason why Jusant is such a joy. Its colorful nature creates these absolutely staggering views around every turn, and you get to enjoy them almost stress-free, even if you are hanging off the side of a cliff with seemingly no bottom. Even though you can find your way through Jusant in just a couple of hours, it crams meta progression into those hours gracefully. With each new region, you're obviously going to have new areas to explore and new sights to see, but more importantly, each one has a new mechanic or two to shake things up and keep it interesting. These aren't really additions to your skill set either, they're mostly environmental changes that are exclusive to whatever region of the tower you're in, which is a really cool way to change up the gameplay. But another huge department that Jusant succeeds in, at least in my opinion, is in its development of mystery. When it comes to story, the game takes an approach almost similar to Outer Wilds, where it is really on you to figure out what's going on and interpret the information you're coming across. Of course, Outer Wilds does this better because, well, it's Outer Wilds, but you get the idea. Along with mechanics and otherworldly visuals, each region of the tower is chock full of new secrets, logs, and clues as to what's going on. You can choose to engage with them as much or as little as you like, and it's great either way. I will admit that my first time through the game, I straight up ignored the story stuff and focused purely on the visuals because, I mean, how could you not? But the narrative angle of the game is really cool to explore as well. Even if you do take the gameplay-only approach, Jusant's world is so detailed, so fascinating, so confusing that you'll regret that choice by the time you roll credits, which is likely to be sooner than you expect. Peak is the hottest new climbing game to sweep the gaming community, at least it was when I started writing this video back in fucking May. In the grand spectrum of climbing games, Peak has a lot more in common with something like White Knuckle than it does with something like Jusant, which sounds wrong, but just give me a minute. As opposed to White Knuckle's purposefully drab look, it is punctuated by a bright, lively color palette to give life to its world. It lacks the same visual fidelity as Jusant, but where that is a very intentional, fairly linear, single-player experience, Peak is the direct opposite. The game finds you stranded on a desert island, with your only hope of escape to ascend to the top and call for help. By this point, you're certainly familiar with the game's couple of selling points. Peak is a procedurally generated multiplayer climbing game. Not every run will be randomized, but the island instead changes once a day, giving you time to learn the routes before it changes on you. But the biggest seller is obviously the cooperative multiplayer climbing element. There is something enthralling about treating the mountain as a big puzzle and then getting to solve that puzzle with a couple of your friends. It's also undeniably hilarious to watch them die trying.
What happened? Get up!
I died.
Which way?
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Ah! Ah! There's no guaranteed safety, and the game is fairly unforgiving, especially with its focus on being prepared. Depending on how high up you are, if you run out of stamina and you're not going to make a climb, there's almost nothing you can do about it. Combine this with region mechanics like the rain, ice, or lava, and Peak will be quick to claim its victims left and right. However, only one person in your crew has to make it past each region where they can revive all dead players for the next segment. However, you have probably started to think to yourself, this is nothing like White Knuckle at all, and maybe you actually do have a point, but aside from its similarly punishing nature, the game also heavily encourages you to use tools to survive. They are a bit more sparse in Peak, but if you know where to look, they can really make a difference in how the game flows. Whether whatever you're using to survive is one of the pitons, or a rope, or one of the rare mythical items, or simply the helping hand of a fellow expeditioner, it is hard to imagine the climb without them. But whatever you consider the good and bad of Peak, there's just nothing that really stacks up to the lax cooperative nature of the game. Whether or not you even like it is a different story, because it is easy to forget that there's not much like Peak out there. Forget even the climbing element, there's just not a whole lot of cooperative games that are kind of chill like this. Your options essentially boil down to team-based PvP or action-heavy multiplayer like Rainbow, CSGO, or hell, even Borderlands 4. But that does bring us all the way back to the beginning. What is the point? I mean, really, I can't make that call for you, and it does almost entirely depend on what you're playing and what your personal taste is. Your goal or what you're looking to get out of one of these games is going to vary completely depending on what it is, whether it's White Knuckle or Lorne's Lore or Jusant, Peak, or even Karn. It's going to be different every single time. Are you looking for some sort of catharsis at the top of the mountain? Is it the release you're seeking, or are you just obsessed with chasing the idea that after some great journey, something about your metaphorical experience could change or could gain some kind of new meaning? As usual, the answer is up to you, but at least for me, and I hate to end a video this way, but in this case, it really is more about the journey than the destination. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you had a good time, and of course feel free to form your own opinions after playing the games mentioned here. I'm sorry the gap between this and the last video was so large. I had a bunch of stuff going on that maybe I'll talk about at another time, but I do appreciate you all tuning in, and if you have any questions for me, feel free to comment down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. In the meantime, make sure to like the video and subscribe if you're new around here, and I will catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.